Hey guys, Mike here. So today's cult classic review is 2001's Donnie Darko, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie Darko. In Donnie Darko, a troubled teen is plagued by visions of a man in a large rabbit outfit who convinced him to commit a series of crimes after he escapes a bizarre incident. And so we have Donnie Darko. So guys, this is another movie in the series that before reviewing it and watching it today, I had not seen it before, though for years I've been hearing really good things about Donnie Darko. And somehow as well, I've managed to go the past 19 years without knowing anything about this film. So it made me even more excited to see what the hype was around Donnie Darko. So, what did I think of it? Well, it goes without saying, this is easily one of the best performances that I've ever seen Jake Gyllenhaal give. Granted, Jake Gyllenhaal's another actor that I haven't seen in quite a lot of things, but I've always liked him in everything I have seen, and this is definitely one of the best performances I've ever seen him give. Obviously, the story of Donnie Darko doesn't work without Donnie Darko. Jake Gyllenhaal gives such a layered performance. He's a very surreal character, whilst at the same time being very grounded and relatable as well. And the way the filmmakers show Donnie Darko's degrading mental state is really interesting. And I'd say a lot of Donnie's character development is shown through symbolism and philosophy. Because throughout the movie, he's trying to constantly figure out why this is all happening to him. And ultimately as well, why he has such a pessimistic view on life in general. He's always trying to constantly bring meaning to everything he does, and the more he does that, he finds he's going more and more down a negative path. And ultimately, he accepts that he has to go down this negative path to find meaning to all this. But ultimately, I'd say one of the points where Donnie Darko really shines is in its philosophy. Whether it's talking about the meaning of life, destiny, time travel, it always finds interesting ways of bringing up this discussion. And the movie smartly doesn't try and say that one theory is more right than the other. Each theory is always disproving, contradicting, and correcting one or the other. Like, for example, the theory of destiny, where everything is always predetermined and you can never veer from your path. However, if you then knew what your path was, you could then choose to decide to not follow it. But then that also begs the question, were you always supposed to know your destiny, and then therefore it's always predetermined that you were supposed to know that? And though ultimately this isn't the main focus of Donnie Darko, it is one of the sums of a greater whole which makes this whole movie really interesting. I wouldn't say that anyone in the supporting cast particularly stood out or were more interesting than one another, but I really did like their characters and they did definitely keep me invested. Though obviously I'd say one of the most probably dated points of this whole film would be in its special effects. Though I wouldn't say that I saw them as particularly dated. I'd say these blurry, non-focused effects actually do lend itself to not quite knowing whether this character is in reality or not. Because sometimes what we see isn't so clear-cut, and I think these effects lend themselves to that point. Though something else I wasn't actually expecting from this film was the score. Though the score as a whole probably wasn't the most inspired, there were certain pieces of music which really stood out. Though as well, though not technically the score of the film, I really loved Gary Jules' version of Mad World. It really helped to emphasise the bleakness of this ending. Though for me personally, Gary Jules' version of Mad World will always be the Gears of War song. Sorry to all those Donnie Darko fans out there, but Mad World is Gears of War. But ultimately, I'd say my biggest problem with Donnie Darko kind of comes with the ending. Now, by no means am I saying this is a bad ending. I just was kind of mixed on it as a whole. Because I would say the ending of Donnie Darko was very open-ended and very much open to an audience interpretation. Now, the reason I'd say I was mixed on this is because normally I tend not to like endings where they just say, you know, I'm leaving it up to your interpretation of it, instead of themselves first coming up with a definitive ending and then also leaving it open for audience interpretation. However, I find that I'm actually going to give a pass on Donnie Darko because the whole movie was kind of like this. It was kind of this whole big open-ended mystery where you can really insert your own interpretations and your own feelings towards it. And thinking upon it more, I think if they had a definitive ending, it might have actually ruined the experience as a whole. Because thinking about Donnie Darko logically, it doesn't necessarily really make sense because they never really obviously explain why any of this has happened or what it all ultimately meant in the end. And I imagine that countless people have come up with their own interpretations of this. It just comes down to, in the end, what's real and what's not real. So guys, would I consider Donnie Darko a personal cult classic, and would I recommend that you guys should see it? You know what, I really liked Donnie Darko way more than I thought I would. And I could definitely see this as a movie that I would watch over and over again to find different meanings or see other things that I didn't see the first time around. So because of this, I would easily put this as one of my favourite movies in this cult classic series. And you know what, I'd probably put it as a personal favourite as well. Because I imagine the more I think about this movie, the more I'll actually get out of it. Or actually, probably the more I think about it, the more I might not like it as much. Though at this point in time, I found that I really liked Donnie Darko. Though Donnie Darko has a couple of shortcomings, as a whole, this was a really enjoyable experience. Great story, great acting, interesting philosophy, all-round amazing movie that you guys should definitely go watch. Okay guys, that's my cult classic review of Donnie Darko. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you think, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!